What's up, guys? This is Anthony, aka Sir Kibble 2. I am actually on the line with Ben Prunty, the composer for FTL, Faster Than Light soundtrack.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good. How you doing?
I am well.
Nice.
Very fantastic. Happy to be talking to you. After I got done reviewing the soundtrack, I was like, oh please, I hope I can get an interview with this guy because I'd really like to know some of your thoughts and just the creative juices behind the soundtrack. It is a really good soundtrack.
Cool. Thanks,
sure.
Man.
So, being that it was your first soundtrack, first official kind of big release soundtrack, I guess you could say. How do you feel about it now? Looking back at it when you released it in 2012, looking at it now, how do you feel about it?
I'm still pretty happy with it. It came out really well. I mean, it wasn't my first soundtrack. I've been doing music for like 15 years.
Sure.
It's just the first one that actually went somewhere that people actually heard.
Sure, yeah.
So, by the time I did FTL, I was pretty experienced already. And so it came out as well as I could hope for, I think. So I'm still pretty happy with it, and I'm glad that I can listen to it again and not be embarrassed by anything in it.
Oh yeah, that's a good feeling right there.
Yeah.
When you look back at it, it's like, yeah, this is solid. I like
Yep.
this. I could listen to this. I think even when I'm creating my own content, I look back at it sometimes and I'm like, yeah, I don't even like this.
Right, yeah. I've had a lot of that, but I get less and less of it as the years go by, which I'm very happy about.
Yeah. So, I'm sure a lot of people already know your background, but just in case people don't,
Yeah.
kind of what got you into music and, specifically video game music and stuff?
So I played a lot of games when I was a kid. The first game I played was Armor Battle for the Intellivision, and I was like 3, and
Wow.
I've been playing games ever since. And so they were always like a big inspiration. And I didn't really have any real musical talent when I was a kid, and I certainly didn't even seem to have much interest in music. But I really liked game music. And when I was like 13 or 14 maybe, I discovered bad German trance music, and I loved it. And I thought that...
What year was this around?
That would have been, let's see, if I was... maybe like 1996?
Okay, yeah.
When I was like, I was starting my teenage years.
I guess that would be a good era to listen to bad German trance music.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes sense. You're exploring your musical options.
Yeah. And I didn't really like 90s, like the grunge.
Sure, yeah.
The grunge music and I didn't really like the alternative rock scene. It just didn't. I guess I grew up in the wrong era, and I really liked electronic music, but the only electronic music that I knew of was bad German trance music. There was a couple other things. I really liked Orbital, and
yeah.
And some of the 90s, the really hip electronic acts in the 90s, and I really thought that making music with computers would be really cool, but I had no idea how to actually do that. And eventually, you remember in the 90s, you'd get those giant paper catalogs that would have like software and computer parts.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And they were like really hideous. They were like really ugly, like bright colors.
Yeah, there's all the yellows and the oranges and reds, just like sale here, percents off here. It's like, oh gosh.
Yeah, and they were like 100 pages or more, and they just have like every piece of software. This is like before Amazon existed, so this is how you bought computer parts and stuff.
Amazon and Newegg and
before Newegg. And I found in that one of those catalogs there was a bit of software called Acid, which I think still exists, but I think Sony makes it now. But before, it was made by a company called Sonic Foundry, and it sounded pretty cool. I didn't know anything about music, and it sounded pretty cool. It was like, you can put loops together and then make music, and I was like, that sounds kind of neat. And so I like saved up money and bought it for like, it was like $100.
I just looked it up. They're still selling it.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still available.
Nice.
Some form of fashion.
And I used that for a while and like put loops together. Like it came with a bunch of loops, and and then I started like I found my old like Casio keyboard from the 80s and like plugged it into my computer like straight through the microphone jack. Like really horrible way to like record music, but I didn't know any better. And I started like recording little melodies to go over the loops and everything. And
Nice.
And everything else is just like a gradual learning experience over the next like 15 years to where I am now from there. I also went to school for audio engineering a couple years later, so that kind of helped a little bit.
Only a little bit?
Well, it was audio engineering in that it was recording bands. So I learned a lot about microphone placement and like acoustics.
Sure, yeah.
Which wasn't exactly relevant always to what I was doing, but I did learn a lot about how audio works, and it did help. But yeah, most of the stuff I learned I had to learn on my own.
Okay, yeah.
Like MIDI and synthesizers and stuff.
Yeah, that's the interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Well, now I've heard that like classes like that now, like they have specific classes just for iTunes audio engineering.
Nice.
Like I'm like, jeez, frick, like it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, it's pretty specialized now, and you can pretty much get any kind of electronic music education. I think now, but
yeah, pretty much.
When I did it, and the only thing I could find that seemed even remotely close was audio engineering, so that's what I did.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that and obviously the internet wasn't as big as it was now.
Yeah, I didn't have internet access when I was a teenager, so yeah, I just sort of had to like figure it out.
I think by that time, like dial-up was like just starting to take off. Like,
yeah, it just started to take off in like the mid '90s, but I lived in Maine. And and internet access was a bit harder to get there.
Yeah, I'm already I can get where you're coming from. I've always been a California guy, but you know, I've talked with people over the virtues of the internet who have had bad internet experiences from the places they lived at, so
yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. So you get into music, you kind of had some interest in it, but what really was the inspiration that was just like, you know what, I really want to delve into this and maybe make a career out of it?
So I had, when I was in high school, everyone's thinking about what they want to do when they get older, and I had a few things that I wanted to do, and one of them was like, I wanted to be a writer, because every teenager wants to be a writer at some point.
Sure.
And I wanted to teach, but my grades were horrible. And so that wasn't going to go very far. And I thought making games would be really cool. I wanted to get into game development, but at the time there were only 2 schools that offered degrees in game development, and that was Full Sail and Digipen.
Digipen.
Yeah.
I remember looking into that one.
Yeah, and they were both way too expensive. I couldn't go to them. There was no way. Certainly not with my grades. And so the last option was like, well, making music or doing sound for games would be really cool also. So that's what I picked. And that's what I stuck with for like so many years.
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
Sweet. Now you've created a big soundtrack for a pretty big indie game.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. Took a while, but made it.
Yeah, it took what, 13 years?
Yeah, about there. Yeah.
There you go, folks. You gotta be in it for the long run.
Yeah.
gosh.
It'd take a while.
So what were you doing in that 13 years? Were you just trying to make music for other, like, really small people, or were you just making your own thing? Like, what were you trying to do?
Mostly I was making my own stuff, and I was learning music theory, and I taught myself piano and banjo.
Okay.
And
Wait,
I worked.
banjo?
Yeah, I love banjo.
Awesome. At some point, I'm gonna have to get you to play some banjo for us.
Oh, okay, hang on. Let me go grab it.
Oh, you're gonna play right now? Awesome.
Yeah. So after college, I moved from Maine to California,
Okay.
and I moved to California specifically hoping to get some kind of job in the game industry, although I didn't really know how.
Sure.
What? Especially because back then there was no indie scene. So I moved in 2004, and there was definitely no indie scene whatsoever. If you wanted to work in games, you had to like get a job at a company.
Right.
And I didn't really know what to do. I was working at like a GameStop. I was a manager. I hated it. And as you can imagine, and I had a friend who worked at Google, and I was telling him one day, like, man, I really hate this job at GameStop. And he was like, so do you know Linux? And I was like, no. And he's like, do you want to work at Google? And I was like, hell yeah. Like, this was like early 2005. So Google had just gone public, and they were like this huge company. And it's like, even though you were looking for like a job in the game industry, you don't really turn down a job offer to Google.
Right.
So yeah, I took that job, and I actually worked at Google for like 2.5 years.
Okay.
And I was like fixing servers, like diagnosing and fixing computer problems at data centers.
Okay.
And
I'm sure that whet your musical appetite.
yeah, I mean, it was really fun. Like, I mean, it was a cool company to work for, and it was really fun. Like, fun ripping apart computers, because I really like building and taking apart computers anyway.
Okay.
Like, I always build my own rig and everything. So, but yeah, eventually it was like, I need to leave because I got to get back to what I'm doing. And the whole time I was working there, I was still like practicing and like learning music and trying to get small like indie projects, because like the indie scene was starting to show up.
Sure. So
and I did a lot of games, but like 95% of all games, like independent games, get canceled.
Yep.
So like I made tons of soundtracks. Like I made so much music, and none of it will ever be seen because like the games were never released.
Ever thought about releasing like the lost Ben Prunty tracks or something?
I have, actually. If you go on Bandcamp, there are 2 albums there. There's an album called Chromatic T-Rex.
Right, Chromatic T-Rex, yeah.
Yeah, and another one called Curious Merchandise. And a lot of the music from both of those is stuff from old game projects.
Okay, I didn't realize that. Awesome.
Yeah. So I have released the best of it online pretty much now.
Awesome.
So
well, yeah, let's hear some of this banjo.
Oh yeah, so it might be out of tune. I haven't tuned it in a couple of days, but
I'm sure most people don't know the difference.
Yeah, it's a little bit out of tune. Hang on. But yeah, so my dad played the banjo, so
okay.
And
I was gonna ask, what's your family influence?
Yeah, so I tried to like, I used to love listening to it when I was a kid when he'd play, and so he lent me his banjo for a while, and I like tried to teach myself to play it while I was in college. I didn't do very well, and I've always had a banjo. I have 2 banjos now, and I didn't really get into it until a couple of years ago, and now I've been really trying to get better. But it's like kind of low priority when I'm like doing soundtracks and stuff.
Right.
But I really want to get better at it.
I was gonna ask, has anyone ever really given you grief because you mostly make music through computers instead of actual instruments?
Not as much as you'd think. I was expecting more grief.
like you know how people are just so like traditionalist. I graduated with a multimedia degree, and there were those artists out there, you know, just like all about the pencil and the paint, you know, not even looking at the digital stuff. It's just like Bible, you know.
Yeah, and you know, I met people who are like that, and most of them are pretty polite about it and just don't bring it up, you know, because they know it's like my career. But I definitely faced a lot of it early on, like when I was in college and I was in this audio engineering program. All of them were way into like rock bands, and they didn't really, none of them, including my teacher, really understood electronic music at all. So I used to get a lot of flack from the other students about it and everything, like, oh, it's not real music, this is stupid, and you know, it's not made by instruments, it's terrible.
Oh god, what was that? Okay, what kind of reaction did you ever get if people told you that video game music wasn't real music?
What kind of reaction did I get?
Yeah, because like for me, like people would, you know, say like I tell people I listen to video game music, and the immediate response is like Super Mario Brothers, you know, like it's just like no, it's like it's still good, but it's way broader than that now.
Right. Yeah, I've still gotten a lot of that for a while. Like while I was working on FTL and Gravity Ghost, before that, I was working at a non-profit place that recorded books on tape for people with learning disabilities.
Okay.
And I was like sort of a administrator there, and we had volunteers who recorded the books, and most of them were older people, and so they would ask me about, they always thought I was in college because I kind of look really young.
Sure.
And so, but I'm like, you know, at this point I was like 26, 27, and I was like, oh, you know, I graduated a while ago. I make music for computer games. And some of them were, you know, like, oh, that's really cool. But then there were occasionally some of them just either didn't understand or didn't like it. There was one really old guy who was like, oh, well, I guess someone has to.
Nice.
And I had one guy who was like, I don't think electronic, and he was like, he wasn't being a dick. He was like, he really genuinely believed. He was like, I don't think electronic music is like real music. I've heard a lot. I've heard electronic music and it doesn't sound very good. And I told him, I said, well, what you were hearing was just bad music. It's not a function of the genre. It was probably a function of the composer. And I said, here, listen to my stuff, because I had just released FTL, I think, at this point.
Okay. And
I said to him, here's a link to like my stuff. Go home and listen to it and tell me what you think. And I got an email back from him, and he was like, I am so sorry I ever said that electronic was bad. What you made is really good. And I was like, it was really cool. And I was glad that I could convince somebody that what I did was not completely worthless.
Yeah. That and like some electronic music, obviously you get the chiptune stuff, and that does not resonate very well with people's ears sometimes. Right. Just because of the way the sound is. But yeah, I'm like, it's so much better now.
Yeah.
I still like chiptune stuff. But
the chiptunes, like, I think you need to grow up with it in order to understand it.
Yeah, there's an appreciation for chiptune music.
Yeah, because I have a friend who only played PC games. Like, he never had a console until like a PlayStation 2 or 3.
Okay.
He played tons of PC games, and he doesn't understand the chiptune thing, even though he's been playing games, and he's like my age.
Yeah.
So it's like there's evidence that you need to grow up with it, I think, in order to understand it.
Yeah, it's prolific in Game Boy, you know, at the time too. So I mean, a lot of people had Game Boys.
Yeah.
So it's so funny to see some of those people who did, and they still think of chiptune music as just like, oh, it's just like you did realize that was the sound coming out of the dot matrix fat Game Boy.
Yeah.
Back in the freaking early 90s, right? Like, it's so funny how that works out.
Yeah.
Let's hear some quick little banjo ditty.
Let me see here.
Wait. Mind if I challenge you real quick?
All right, let's hear it.
Can you play maybe one of your FTL songs on the banjo?
No, I really can't play any of the FTL songs. There was a brief time when I tried to learn a bunch of things from FTL on the banjo, but I kind of forgot all of it.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I should really learn some stuff from FTL, because I'm gonna probably get people asking me that.
I was the first.
Yeah, I know a couple of like folk songs. I know like a Celtic tune. Let's see if I can remember. It's been a little while, so.
Oh yeah, no, I understand the rest.
Ooh, boy, it really is out of tune. Hang on.
I can hear it.
Yeah. Ugh. Ooh.
I'm a drummer, but still, like, I really understand the notations and all that. It's just like, oh, when I hear a piano out of tune, it's like, oh Jesus.
Oh God, yeah, piano out of tune is awful.
Fix it fast.
Ugh. Okay, I don't know if I can play this. Hang on, let me try the other banjo.
You don't have to.
I got two. It's all good. Oh, let's see if this is out of tune. Tuning it would take too long, so I'm not gonna bother.
No, yeah.
It's a little better.
Yeah, that is better.
Oops. Man, I'm pretty bad right now.
It's all good. I liked what I heard. Sure everybody else did too.
Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks since I've been able to play, so that's why my banjo is out of tune.
No, yeah, I'm sure. Well, I'm sure the fact that you do computer music too doesn't mean you always get to pick up the instrument. So.
Right, yeah.
So, now that you've had some time away from the FTL soundtrack, do you wish you could do anything differently?
Well, it turned out to be a huge success, so I think maybe if I did anything differently, it may not turn out as well. So,
that's true.
Little wary of thinking of changing anything.
Like, well, do you look back on it and kind of, for your own self-critique, go like, I should have maybe done this a little differently, maybe added more of this, or decreased this measure a little shorter, or...
I probably wouldn't have put as much emphasis on hi-hats if I had noticed how much I used them in the entire soundtrack.
Okay, I can see where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, like every battle track is like, there are tons of hi-hats, like everywhere.
Yeah, there are a lot of hi-hats. Like I'm a drummer, so like the first things that pop out on tracks with drums are the drums. And so,
yeah.
Wow. I was like, he put a lot of hi-hat. Well, I was thinking, I was like, he must like hi-hats, because there are quite a bit. It really didn't take away from the music, but it was just like, he likes hi-hats.
Yeah, I really did, apparently. Yeah, I had no idea that I was putting in so much of it in each track until like afterward, and I listened to it, the whole thing, and I was like, oh damn, it's like everywhere. So I might not have put quite as much of it, but it still sounds pretty cool, so yeah, I'm happy.
That's the thing, it sounds good, and even though there are, pretty much every track does have them, like, the way they're implemented, it's not like it's just spread just crazily over every track. Like, there's still moments where it's not there, and it gives your ear time to relax from them and stuff, so...
Right, yeah. I definitely... Being repetitive is something that I always fear, and I never want to do it, so I try to make it so that nothing repeats too often, you don't hear the same phrase too much.
Sure, yeah. So, for the Explore songs specifically, how did you determine which songs felt more explorative and then others felt a little more mysterious?
You mean like some Explore songs compared to other Explore songs?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, some of it was like I wrote specifically with something in mind, like Rockmen was written specifically like I was thinking of the Rockmen. I had this very solid idea in my head of what it was going to sound like.
Okay.
And then other stuff, it was just like I was writing something that sounded cool and then decided where it would go afterwards.
Okay.
Um,
So did it ever have, like, did the game or the premise or even the characters ever influence kind of how you created the track?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, the Rockmen was like, I had a very clear idea of what the Rockmen was going to sound like. The NG theme is heavily based on the NG characters, although I didn't have a whole lot of the writing available. Like, you know, all the writing that shows up in all the events.
Right.
Like, that was like one of the last things implemented, and so I only had like a vague idea of what each alien was like, and not as much detailed info as
Sure.
players had when they played it. So
Like, did you ever start playing the game and you see all that text and think to yourself, oh, maybe I would have composed it a little differently if I had known that?
I might have made the Mantis theme a little more sinister,
Okay.
maybe. But I still really like the Mantis theme. Is like one of my favorites.
I like that one too, yeah.
So
It still kind of fits though, because it is the most aggressive.
yeah, it's pretty
track.
aggressive. Some guy on YouTube turned it into a metal song, which was really awesome.
Nice.
So I think it fits anyway. I think players accepted it as the Mantis theme. So it wasn't so far off that
Right, yeah.
it was bad.
Well, that's kind of cool how that just came together like that.
Yeah. But yeah, the NG theme was like very much based on what I thought about the NG and how I thought they might feel, like kind of philosophical.
Sure, yeah. Yeah,
And
that.
the Zoltan theme is very is like my most traditionally composed thing, and the Zoltan kind of seem like the kind of race that would like traditionally composed music. So.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. It's pretty spot on there. So, since you own the rights to the music and, you know, you get to sell it as you please, do you think that that's been working out better for you than revenue share?
Yes, absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah, the majority of my money comes from soundtrack sales right now.
Right.
And being on the Humble Bundle didn't hurt either.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, right now they paid me up front, and they paid me really well too.
Okay.
And but I didn't get revenue share on FTL. Unfortunately, that would have been awesome. But
No, yeah, but I do you think because of the way the game's been selling, do you think things may have been different if you would have? Do you think you would have got more with revenue share, or do you think as much, less?
I definitely would have gotten more with revenue share, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I still have done extremely well just on soundtrack sales alone, so I'm happy.
So, at least from selling stuff philosophically, do you think it's developer by developer, or do you think you'd rather just have the rights to your own music and just sell it as you please, or is revenue share kind of an option you're looking for in the future?
So these days, I've never given up the rights to my music. I still own every piece of music that I've ever written.
That's good.
So these days, I do revenue share and keep ownership of the music.
Okay.
So I get the best of both worlds.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great that people allow you to do that.
Yeah. I have more clout these days than I had before FTL, you know?
Oh, yeah, for real.
It's a little easier to get that.
Yeah, no, definitely. So let's talk about FTL AE
Oh, nice.
as much as you can.
All right.
First of all, I didn't even know you were going to release an entirely new soundtrack along with it. I thought you were just going to add music based on, the new characters they were going to add.
Yeah.
Situations and stuff. So, oh, go ahead.
I asked the guys, like, they wanted one new music track for the new race, and I was like, I could just make more if you guys want. And they said, sure, just make what you want. So I was like, all right. So I've been making other tracks. I have a few other tracks besides the track for the new race, and I was working on some of it this morning, in fact. And I want to do as much new music as possible as I can,
So everything on the AE soundtrack is going to be, as far as new tracks, it's going to be completely new. It's not like remixed or anything.
Well, some of it's like new arrangements of themes that show up in the old one, but they're all new tracks that I made from scratch. Yeah.
Okay, so is it going to have the old tracks and the new tracks, or just all new?
It's gonna be a separate album release, so it's gonna be its own thing with just the new tracks.
Okay.
And some bonus material.
Okay. All right. Nice.
Yeah. It's gonna be pretty cool, I think. I got a friend of mine to do the album art, and she just sent it to me last night, and it looks awesome too. So it's gonna have cool album art as well.
Nice. So the other tracks that you were just like, hey, can I make new music for this? Are those just kind of ideas you had ruminating in your head, or are they kind of like variant tracks to what's already been created? I'm just trying to process what to expect.
So it's just like new music to add to the game. So sectors will have additional tracks now that they didn't have before.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's new music in the same style as the old game.
Okay, so they're not separate from the game. They're completely tied in with it.
Yeah, like you won't even... Yeah, you'll just like, as you're playing, you'll notice new music popping up in certain areas. So it's like it's integrated into the game, just like the new content is integrated into the game.
Sweet, that's cool. Subset allowed you to do that.
Yeah, they like what I did, and they like working with me, and they can certainly afford to pay me, so they were very cool about it. And yeah, so it's gonna be a pretty fun release, I think.
Awesome. So when you started working on these songs, kind of like, what's been your thoughts since you already finished the FTL soundtrack before? Like, what was your thoughts coming into making these new tracks?
It was definitely, my thought was fan service. So I'm trying to make stuff that I think that the fans would really enjoy. So there a lot of the older a lot of the themes pop up and are played around with in new ways. Like I have a track that has the melody and chords from the title screen music, but done with minor chords, so it sounds like kind of sinister.
Okay.
So it's like kind of rearranged stuff from the game, and it'll sound cool to a fan who recognizes the melodies and chords and stuff. It sort of rewards people who are longtime listeners and players. Sure, yeah. So I think the fans will be happy with what I'm doing. I hope.
Sweet, awesome. Well, I guess we'll find out soon. When can we expect the soundtrack? Is that going to be released with the game or separately?
Yeah, I want to release it simultaneously.
Okay.
So, but I don't even really know when we're releasing the expansion.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm not really sure when that's going to be, but sometime in the next couple of months, I think.
I know, I'd be happy with whenever it's finished. So.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Any chance we can know how much it'll cost?
I'm gonna try. I want it to be just $1. That's my plan.
Okay.
We'll see. I still got to work out the details with Steam and with Subset, and we'll see. That's not a guarantee. I have no idea what it's really going to cost.
But like, at least as I saw on Twitter, I think you said it's going to be cheaper.
Yeah, it'll definitely be like, it certainly won't be the same price as the main soundtrack because there's not nearly as much music, and I don't want to do that. I want to keep it at like $1. I want it to be like easy purchase to make. You know?
That makes sense.
And I'm gonna put a lot of bonus material, so you feel like you're getting your money's worth.
Sure. Awesome. So I'm assuming Gravity Ghost is probably the next soundtrack that's coming out. I mean, outside of FTL Advanced Edition.
Yeah, I think it should be the next thing that comes out. Assuming there isn't a delay or anything. I've actually been working on Gravity Ghosts. I started that before I started working on FTL.
Okay.
And so I'm mostly done already. So I've been doing some editing for the voice acting that's in the game.
Oh, so you're doing some sound design stuff too.
Yeah, so I used to do sound design as well as music, but Gravity Ghost is the last time. I really like doing music.
I'm done with sound design.
Yeah, I discovered that recently, in the last year or so, that I don't really like doing sound design.
Okay.
So I'm not offering that anymore. And now, you know, I'm known for my music, so it's pretty easy to not have to offer it anymore.
Yeah, how does it feel to be in the marketing campaign for Gravity Ghost, where they literally put in the soundtrack, you know, or in the video soundtrack by the composer of FTL?
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of weird. Like everyone does that now. Like, there's another game I'm working on called Star Crawlers. And they just released a trailer a couple days ago, and like my name is like the first thing that you see.
It's not Starcrawlers. Ben Prunty. FTL.
So yeah, it's a little strange to have that.
Does it make you uncomfortable? Like, does it make you feel good?
It feels pretty cool. I'm not too uncomfortable with it, I guess. It's been like a year and a half since FTL came out, so I'm getting more comfortable with people knowing who I am and what I've done and everything, and I'm more used to it now. It would have been weird like if that had happened like right after FTL came out.
Yeah.
But I think I've got it now. I think I got it down.
Sweet. So what can we expect from the Gravity Ghost soundtrack?
Well, to me it seems very different from FTL, but maybe listeners won't think so. I'm not really sure. There's a lot more variety in instrumentation. So in like FTL, I said like it's gonna be like retro game sound plus like a cinematic sound, but without an orchestra, and that was like my limitation and like the vision of FTL.
Sure.
And so that sort of dictated what instruments I used and what sounds I would pick. But Gravity Ghost, there's no limit or no limitation on what I put in there. So it's like, it's kind of all over the place instrumentation wise. And that kind of makes it fun. There's some orchestral elements, and there's some electronic stuff, and there's a lot of really eccentric things. I sent you an MP3
Yes.
in your email. You can take a listen to it. That gives you an idea of how different it is, I think, if you listen to that, and you can play it at the end of this. And
I will do that then.
yeah, it's pretty cool. It's one of my favorites from the soundtrack, and it gives you a good idea of what to expect.
Okay. So knowing that they're both kind of spacey, I guess you could say, do you think more people will start coming to you for space soundtracks?
It's already happened. I am now like the roguelike guy and the space guy at the same time. So I've been approached by a lot of people making roguelikes.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
it's not like your music was set for a roguelike. Like it was just FTL.
It's a little odd, yeah. I'm not really sure why. why people associate me with roguelikes. Particular, like space games, I can understand. People are like, oh yeah, it's kind of spacey music or whatever. But this music sounds really roguelike. Get it. Anyway,
I'm trying to imagine what roguelike music sounds like right now. Like,
procedurally generated, I guess.
dude, that would be crazy.
Yeah, there you go. But I don't mind because I love roguelikes. I've been playing NetHack for like 10 years or 15 years, and I'm just like a huge fan of roguelikes, and I'm so happy that it's like a genre now. So I'm not limited to just text-based games anymore.
Sure.
Like I love Spelunky and FTL and all the roguelike stuff that's been coming out. So I don't mind that I keep getting approached about doing roguelike music, so I'm happy.
Whatever that sounds like.
I'm happy to be associated with like more hardcore games, because that's what I tend to play.
Okay.
So I like that
the really challenging stuff.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Stuff that I like.
So with Gravity Ghost, I've watched the trailer, and I'm sure people would agree that there's clear and definitive inspiration from Mario Galaxy. So are you pulling any inspiration from Mario Galaxy, like with the way you compose your music?
Not really, no. Her game idea actually, I don't think had anything to do with Mario Galaxy, although that's how she tends to describe it. She'll say it's like a 2D Mario Galaxy, but
yeah.
When she was making it, she was just making like a gravity prototype, and then started having fun with like playing around with the planets and stuff. I think a lot of it is more based on her earlier work, doing adventure games, and she made another game called Dude Icarus, and it involved jumping around on this like spherical planet thing. Right. So I'm definitely not using any Mario Galaxy as inspiration. The Mario Galaxy's very epic score.
This is true.
And it's really awesome. I love it. I love the music in Mario Galaxy. But Gravity Ghost is a lot more eccentric and whimsical, and not nearly as epic in scope.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think I was just looking at it from the gameplay standpoint.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of typically, like, the way I like my music is that it fits in with the gameplay, like it fits the pacing,
right?
Things like that. So I just imagined, oh yeah, maybe he was pulling inspiration from Mario Galaxy. So I ain't got no more questions for you. So I appreciate you being on with me and taking some time out to talk about FTL and
it was fun.
Ghost. So thanks everyone for listening. Now gonna listen to a little bit of Gravity Ghost by Ben Prunty.
Bye.
So thanks. Later,
All
guys.
Right.